All right, so a few extra things you can do, and I'm not really fluent on these, so I'm not going to talk about them, and I didn't look it up. There's going to be blocking, overshadowing. There is evidence, a little bit of evidence, I believe, if you take the neutral stimulus and present it after this, but like in between, or maybe at the same time, that it can and will eventually serve as a conditioned stimulus. But really, the best way to do it is boom, boom. Neutral, unconditioned stimulus. Over time, we get our conditioned stimulus. Yeah, neutral, unconditioned response. So you can also do, I think it's called second order conditioning. So now what we could do is continue this and have a new neutral stimulus. So we'll call it neutral stimulus 2. And what's going to happen with neutral stimulus 2? Nothing. So with our sand in the eye, now there's going to be a tone. It's going to so now it's going to be nothing happens. Nope, nothing happens. That is not anything that I need to pick up on or behave because of in the environment or react to. So we do this. Now we do neutral stimulus 2. Oh, guess what we pair it with? We compare it with that conditioned stimulus. What are we going to get? We're going to get that conditioned response. If this continues to happen, if this does not go through extinction, and this continues to serve as a conditioned stimulus, oh, same exact thing. We just repeat this step. What happens? Now we got conditioned stimulus 2 and conditioned response 2. I don't remember for sure what the literature says, so if you do, please email me if I'm wrong or try to correct me. I want to have right information out there, but I'm not going to work really hard to get it. I'd rather just kind of have a chat, kind of informal. We're not getting CEs right now. This is not in place of school. This is just to talk about some behavior with everything that's going on. So I imagine that the conditioned response 2 is going to be a lower version or less magnitude, less duration version of conditioned response, and that's going to be a lower magnitude or lower duration of the what was it, unconditioned response. So could be wrong. If I'm wrong there, correct me. But you just keep doing this. To get extinction, you want to extinct this, you want this to go back to neutral, what you do is you never pair it again with that unconditioned stimulus. Continue the light this, the light this, the light this. Eventually you're just like, it's been a while and sand has never blown into my eyes again. You're gonna quit blinking because of the blue light. It's eventually you're gonna have respondent extinction, and now this light has not resulted. It's now no longer been paired with that since it's been gone for so long. But no, you get rid of the blue light, and then it's gonna happen. With all this is just catastrophic. What's gonna happen? Or not catastrophic, but it's just all these are gonna go away. Yeah. One really cool study they did, like, oh, what's the purpose of knowing all this? Am I really going to respondent condition someone or my clients? The more you know about this, the more you can help your clients. It's in our science for a reason. And one application that I saw of it that was really awesome is they have the unconditioned stimulus of getting chemotherapy, like for cancer. They have the unconditioned response of getting really sick from the chemotherapy. We have the neutral stimulus of the hospital. Hospital does nothing. So eventually, after that, putting it together, that hospital became a conditioned stimulus, and they started getting that conditioned response of being sick from just going to the hospital. And I think there's even reports of just driving by the hospital. You think about it, like, well, we go there to get chemo. Chemo's going to make you sick. No, you got follow-up appointments. What about if that's not just where your cancer doctor is, but also your general practitioner, your GI doctor, anything, any specialized doctor? Maybe they're all in one building. But because you're doing your cancer treatments, anytime you go to any treatment, you get sick. That's not a life that anyone wants to live. So what they did is they said, what's really important with this? What stimulus becomes conditioned? Well, the one that has the closest temporal locus to that unconditioned stimulus. So what you want to do is you want to have minimal time in between here. Time, minimal, a small amount of time as you can. So going to the hospital, things like that is very delayed. And we have a lot of language and verbal behavior, so we can bridge some of these gaps that if we weren't an animal that used advanced verbal behavior, this might not happen. But with humans, it's demonstrated to happen that the hospital becomes conditioned. Going into those rooms, it's the same check-in counter, it's the same parking lot. A lot of these stimuli are the same, but it's delayed. A lot of those are pretty delayed. So they took a mint, just gave you like a little peppermint or wintergreen. I can't remember what flavor they did. I was told at one point, but they gave it to you right before the chemo. So it's chemo, mint, boom, right there, mint. It's in this little packaging still. And then the hospital building was here. So what happened is, if you learned a lot of detail about that blocking, overshadowing, all that stuff, I'm not sure what it's called. I'm sure it's one of them. But the mint stopped that. So now that hospital did not become a conditioned stimulus. It stayed neutral. That mint took all those conditioning things, became the conditioned stimulus. So what happens for a greater lifestyle? What happens at the end? They no longer eat those mints because it makes them sick from the conditioning effect. Because every time they get chemo, they have the mint. But the hospital no longer has those kind of factors, those kind of respondent behaviors occurring due to the presence of those stimuli, which you have to go to. You have to go to the doctor. You have to do all of this stuff. So that was just one of the coolest applications that I remember ever reading about as far as respondent behavior. Last thing I want to touch base on real quick is, I know we brought up operant. Today's not really about operant. Today's about respondent. But something that kind of goes with that. So, what's his name? Pavlov was doing the SR. We have the stimulus to the, I'm actually going to draw that lower. He was doing, stimulus, boom, unconditioned, conditioned, whichever stimulus was going on, to the response. That's what we got. We got this as the reflex. Well, we had Watson over here. Watson's doing we got a response, and then we have reinforcement to a stimulus. And reinforcement, once we do the operant, when we go over operant stuff, we'll talk about reinforcement is just a stimulus. So really what happened, this all got put together, and now we got S, R, S. This is the 3-term contingency. Whenever we talk, we got a 2-term contingency here. We have a 2-term contingency here. 2 and 2. Do we have 4? No. These are the same. So when you're looking at operant conditioning, this R is going to operate on the environment. When we're looking at respondent conditioning, this R is going to respond to the environment. But really, we have this full 3-term contingency here. So that's why when we talk about operant conditioning, we have a stimulus here, but it's not conditioned, unconditional. Well, it really is, but really what it is, it's discriminated against. Not against, but it's discriminated. We also have S deltas. What do we have? SDPs. All those things. So that's where that S comes from. That's why we call it. So why don't we call it a discriminated stimulus? Why don't we abbreviate it DS? Well, it's SD because it's this, and it's raised up because it's that stimulus that we started with, that bell so long ago. A response, whatever type of response we're talking about. And then here, this one only really comes under respondent conditioning because we don't have it here. But what we have is reinforcement. That's why it's SR plus for reinforcement. We have that stimulus in the SRS literature. We're working from what we already have. We're not reinventing anything. So we do that. We also have minus, P minus plus, lowercase, uppercase. Those all mean something else. So that's where we get it. You start with respondent conditioning. We end up why we have to call it an SD and explain to some parent, some RBT that doesn't care, someone who's interviewing to be an RB, why do you call it an SD? It's a DS. Well, read the literature, go back, learn this stuff, and you'll know why we call it an SD. Well, I think that's it for today. If I said anything wrong, always please email me, behavioralcomedy@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can like, subscribe, comment, all the buttons. You guys know more about it than I do. Let me know what else you would like to know about. If you have any questions about this, anything didn't make sense, please let me know. But other than that, hope you enjoyed, hope you have a good time, and stay safe during these times we're going through.